Oh my, all this mail.
I threw one of these things in my mouth just because I'm kind of addicted to them. It's like an Altoid.
Oh.
So my breath is like coming up and making my eyes water now. All right, gotta eat it.
What the hell's this one? God, he sent me another letter. Probably as illegible as the first.
Oh, that one was horrible.
Yeah, I sent him an email and said I'd give him a call. I didn't want to say I can't read your writing, but mine's just as bad, but the only person that has to read it is me for the most part. All right, guys, let's get the show on the road. Here we go. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winnetka Village Council regular meeting for August 3rd, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask that everybody in the room please either mute or turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. Since I forgot to ask somebody before the meeting, I will lead us again in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sounds a lot better than on Zoom.
Thank you. All right, Rob, quorum check.
Okay, based upon what I've heard from trustees, we will not have a quorum for the 10th of August. So I'll have to circle back for an alternative date for that matter, for the streetscape review. August 7th, 4. Yeah. So August 17th, how does that date look for everybody? Okay. Good. And then the first meeting in September is actually Thursday, September 9th, due to a holiday. So Thursday the 9th, does that look okay?
Yes.
Okay. Terrific, thank you.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in touch.
Okay, item number 4, public comment. This is the time of the evening where members of the public can address the village council on items that are not on the agenda. Does anybody in the audience, would they like to address council? You'll come in a little bit. Kristen, did we have any emails or phone-ins or the like? Okay, thank you. All right, reports. First, trustees. We'll start with John. Any report?
No official reports, but I do want to just let the council know that I was hired by Winnetka Park District, or I'm sorry, Winnetka Platform Tennis Club to assist with the installation of their new 2 paddle courts and expansion plans of the hut, and that I will recuse myself during that whole process.
Okay,
Follow the rules, including not meeting with the staff or trustees.
gotcha.
Great.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Bob? Kim? Andy?
No report.
You want to give us a travel log, or?
Happy to be back.
Rob? Okay, thanks. Village attorney?
No report tonight.
Village manager?
No report this evening.
And I have no report. Okay, moving on to item 6, approval of the agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove an item on the consent agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We still do a voice vote with masks?
Yes.
Okay, voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 7 is the consent agenda. I will ask the village clerk to read the items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Approval of the village council meeting minutes for July 20th, 2021, regular meeting. Approval of the warrant list dated July 16th through the 29th, 2021, in the amount of $1,402,951.64, and resolution number R66, 2021, boiler blowdown tank contract for adoption.
Great, thank you, Rob. All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Kripe?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn? Yes. Trustee Mancini?
That motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving along, item number 8, ordinances and resolution. 8A is ordinance number MC4, 2021. This is the floodplain maps update, and it's up for introduction and possible adoption. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, recently updated its flood insurance rate maps, which will impact classifications of Winnetka's Lake Michigan coastal areas. Assistant Village Engineer Emily Grimm will update us on the necessary code amendments to bring the village into compliance with FEMA regulations. Emily, take it away.
Thank you, President Rintz. So, like the president said, there have been new FEMA maps released for the Lake Michigan coastal area. In the past, these areas have been marked as coastal or as Zone A areas. FEMA is changing their designation to a Zone V area, which means that it's going to be a coastal zone as opposed to just, a normal lake and river zone like we have in most of the rest of Winnetka. So these maps are going to be accepted, or they start to be effective September 10th. So we have to change our flood ordinance to update it so that we have language in our ordinance that refers to these V zones, because currently we do not have any V zones in Winnetka. So this will affect all of the properties along Lake Michigan. Generally speaking, we have a really high coastline that's outside of the floodplain. So all of the houses, as far as I know, are outside of the floodplain along the coast in the village of Winnetka. The only thing that it would possibly impact in the future are if someone did an accessory structure like a boathouse or something that would be lower along the lake. That just means that it would have to be built on piles and be built slightly higher than it has been in the past. The current flood zone is at an elevation of 585 along the lake. The new flood zone will be about 5 feet higher than that, and it varies along the lake. So it's from anywhere from 587 to 592. And with that, I'll take any questions. I'll say that this is an ordinance update, like I said, so our ordinance has been changed to reflect the new map dates. It's also been changed to include V zones. And with that, if there's
Any questions for Emily?
Yes.
Go ahead, Kim.
You mentioned that most of the homes are not necessarily affected by it at this point, right?
Right, correct.
And does that include the property up to the lake, so the boat homes and whatnot, if they're not part of the flood zone, would they have to adhere to these new?
Right, so it wouldn't affect any existing structures. It would, the only thing that would be affected is any new structures. The main change, really, it's a small one, is that they wouldn't be able to be placed on fill. They would have to be elevated by piles. So it would just have to be, or stilts, like you see in Florida,
Yep.
It just wouldn't be on earth.
I also saw there was notes in here for the rules that you can't build barricades for fixing, washing away of current beaches. And so my question was, if we do change, or if someone wants to do that to, mitigate beach erosion, is that a problem for their properties, and will they be made aware that they?
No, they can still do that. They just have to abide by the flood hazard ordinance, which means you have to do cut and fill for what they've added. But yeah, that would not change any type of, embankments or abatements that they do. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Other questions?
I wonder if that's going to discourage some of this bluff shaving that has been going on in Winnetka with building structures lower, because it's going to be a lot more expensive. If you're going to go start doing pilings, I got to believe it's going to be a lot harder to do.
I don't necessarily think so. I think a lot of those things are already built that way. So like I said, the flood zone before was 585. It's being raised by a bit. So really the only thing that would change is they would just have to maybe put their structure 2 or 3 feet higher than they have in the past. Yeah.
In lake levels, it would probably be.
And yeah, I would think that would be a good thing. I mean, you don't want your boathouse to get crushed by waves. So the V zones take into account wave action. So.
Right. Other questions?
Emily, do we notify lakefront property owners of this at all? I mean, I'm not a lakefront property owner, but
We have not. So we put something in the newsletter about changes in flood insurance rates. We have not put anything in the newsletter about changes in flood maps. We
would
can.
we do that?
We should probably consider,
Yeah.
check with FEMA on their notification, because if there are impacted
That's
properties,
true,
FEMA
yeah.
will probably issue the notice, but we should reinforce it
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, I can check on that.
Others?
Yeah, it's a quick question. You mentioned it's like a 5-foot difference depending where you're at.
Sure.
Maybe you don't even know the answer, it's only for my information. What causes the 5-foot difference? Is a lake level a lake level, I would think?
Yeah, well, it has to do with wave action. So coastal zones have wave action, and I think it really depends on like kind of the shape of the bluff in those areas and how hard a wave can hit those areas. I don't know the specifics.
Yeah, no,
but
that's- I kind
I
of
think
thought that
that's
might
kind of
be the
it.
case,
Yeah,
but
it
that's
comes
okay.
into account of the velocity of the waves and
Okay,
how they
thanks.
hit the coast.
Awesome, okay. Would anybody from the audience like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back up for, is there any other discussion, thoughts?
The only thought I have is there's an option of intro and adopt, right?
I believe so, let me see here.
I would
Yes.
be open to do both.
So, do we have okay, so do I have to get a motion on that? Okay,
Motion to waive.
if waiving intro, okay. Do I have a motion to waive introduction of ordinance number MC4 2021?
So moved.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn? Trustee Mancini?
Yes.
Trustee Kripe? Yes. Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
That motion carries. Now we got to get it done here.
Motion to adopt.
I need a motion to adopt ordinance number MC 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Trustee Kripe? Yes. Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Mancini? Trustee Dearborn? Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next item up, and thank you, Emily, that was great. Item B, ordinance number M13 2021, 747 Walden zoning variation. This is up for introduction and possible adoption. This zoning variation request for new construction was unanimously approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Assistant Community Development Director Brian Norkus is here to give us a review on this one.
Thank you, President Rentz. It's good to be with you tonight. The request before the council this evening is a request for relief from the minimum front yard setback requirement of the zoning ordinance. The applicants who have owned the subject property since 2015 are requesting zoning relief in order to construct a new home on the property. The application materials are included in the council's agenda packet beginning on page 67, if you're following along there. Sorry. Subject property is located at the southeast corner of Westmore Road and Walden Road, and is zoned R5 single-family residential. R5 zoning district is the district in the village that provides for the smallest residential lot sizes, requiring a minimum lot area of 8,900 square feet in area for corner lots. It's worth pointing out that the existing lot is slightly non-conforming with respect to that minimum lot area requirement. Properties to the south and west of the subject property that are shown in blue in the image to the right are zoned R3, which requires a somewhat larger minimum lot area of approximately 16,000 square feet. The existing residence that's shown in the image on the left was, according to village records, built in 1914, which coincidentally would predate the village's first zoning ordinance in 1921. The existing residence, as shown in the image on the screen there, is sits at an angle to both Walden and Westmore, askew to both front property lines. The existing home, as called out there in the two blue call-outs on the image, that's indicating that the existing home is non-conforming with respect to the front yard setback from Walden, as well as from the corner yard setback from Westmore Road. The existing setback of the existing residence is 10.55 feet from Walden Road. As shown in the image here on the portion of the screen on the right, depicts the proposed new residence, including the applicant's, calling out the applicant's request to locate the home less than the required minimum 30-foot setback from Walden Road. They are requesting to duplicate the existing front yard setback with the new home to observe 10.55 feet, which amounts to a variation of 65%. While variations from certain setback requirements can be granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals, this matter is before you because the zoning variation procedures in the zoning code require village council approval for any variation request associated with new construction. Just quick view of a couple of slides here that were included at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, just to give you a sense of the proposed character and style of the new house that would be constructed. On June 14th, after receiving no comment from the public, the Zoning Board of Appeals voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the request variation. The Zoning Board of Appeals found that the request met the standards for the granting of zoning relief, citing the irregular lot shape as well as the non-conforming lot depth and the non-conforming lot area that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. Just to give you an image to leave you with, the irregular lot shape that was cited by both the applicant in their application materials and the Zoning Board of Appeals. This image kind of shows the subject property in relation to the surrounding neighborhood. It's kind of noteworthy, I think, that Walden Road, the meandering route that Walden takes to kind of essentially follow the direction of Green Bay Road, the resulting effect there with the curvature of the street is that there are quite a few irregularly shaped lots in the neighborhood. I think what makes the subject property uniquely impacted by the irregular shape is the fact that the subject property is a corner lot and as such is required to provide 2 front yard setbacks, and the applicants have certainly included that as part of their written material that's in their application. And I know that they are here to answer any questions you might have, and I would, of course, be happy to answer that you might have as well.
Sure. All right, we'll start out, and does anybody have questions for Brian before we bring the applicant up?
No questions?
I just, one question. If I'm looking at this right, so the entrance, instead of being on the angle, it moves to, the entrance moves to Walden Road? Am I looking at that right, or, okay. I just spent some time there today looking at it.
The primary entrance does face Walden Road.
Okay. And in changing the putting it that way, which probably makes sense, is it, how much closer is it coming to any neighbors, or is it the same?
The proximity of the proposed house to the southerly property line, actually, there's a slight increase in the setback from the neighbor to the south. I believe the applicants are prepared to give you the exact dimensions. I'm sorry,
I don't need exact.
my image is a little blurry on the screen. I
That's fine.
apologize.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Other questions for Brian?
Brian, line's probably in there, but the garage, what's the setback requirement on a garage like that to the south property line?
The garage is permitted to be within 2 feet of the southerly property line. To explain why that is the case, I'll go to the neighborhood context image there. If you look at the blue lot, that's the subject property in the corner. The proposed garage is allowed to be 2 feet from the southerly property line because it abuts the rear 25% of the lot to the south. And if you see in that image, the garage for the property to the south is essentially directly opposite the existing garage location and where the new one is going. Now, if, with respect to the garage setback, there's also something worth pointing out here. The garage is required to be 6 feet from the rear property line or the east property line. And you can see that there's a slightly larger setback as a result showing for that proposed detached garage, and that is a 6-foot minimum dimension. The reason for that is if you look again at the neighboring properties, the property to the immediate east on Westmore, it is effectively that lot's side yard. So when that condition exists, the garage is required to provide the minimum 6 foot.
Others? Okay. Would the applicant like to share any thoughts with us or anything? You don't have to, but it's always nice to.
We just wanted to make ourselves available. My name is Grace Ha. I live at the subject property. This is my brother Joshua Ha.
Hi.
Lives there. Just to explain just a little bit about, what we're trying to do. We just want to rebuild this house because it's really old. The foundation is kind of having issues, and we've explored options to try to remedy it. It's a brick foundation.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few options. A lot of things like sewer lines, because it was built over 100 years ago, are not up to current code. We want to be able to correct that. And again, to change the facing to face Walden.
Yep.
We understand how construction, especially a large construction involving demolition, could be essentially a nuisance to the neighbors for a little bit. So we did speak to our immediate neighbors around the corner and a few houses down. And everybody seems to be on board, and they're understanding. And we've, given them our contact information, so if there's any specific concerns, they could address it with us.
And one of the beneficiaries of this variance is Mr. Waldron, who lives immediately south of us, and he owns that residence. If we do not obtain this variance and build according to the existing village code, basically the house is going to be set back another 20 feet, and basically 3 sides of this house will be exposed to the streets because, we're basically covering his north side. So that is because the street meanders. His southern side is already exposed, so basically his privacy will be gone. So.
Yeah. And essentially, the current fronts of our houses would be lined up because they're also kind of non-conforming. It's a house that was built around the same time, if not the same year. So, and
Yeah.
pretty much kind of the same structure in a different angle.
So these 5 houses that looks like a Tetris block, if you look at it, like L-shaped Tetris block, they were, if we write this angle, they're all going to conform because they were all built around the same time, same style. So it will, that like coming into harmony with the rest of the neighborhood was one of the key aspects that we were exploring because we don't want to stick out like a sore thumb.
Any questions for the applicants?
No questions?
Great. Well, I'd just like to say that I walk by that house a lot, and I could never figure out how the heck it ended up oriented the way it was. I didn't realize it was that old, though. 1914 is pretty old. So I guess back then, people had a little bit more freedom to do interesting things, but I'm glad to see, first of all, I think you got a great architect, and I think the design, it's nice that at least you're trying to address both street sides with decent architecture, and that's really, really a good thing too, so.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, discussion? I'm not seeing any.
Other than, with the zoning, with the board's full approval, again, I'm open to introduce and, waive adoption and go to approval.
Seeing a lot of nods. Okay, we'll go that way then and see what happens.
We're all smiling, you just can't tell.
My poker face.
Okay, oops. Not only do I have to wear this mask, I cannot wear my glasses, and I'm bad when I have them on, let alone, where am I at right?
If you hold your breath while you use your reading glasses,
Exactly.
that works, but
Then I can't talk, though. I'm here, okay.
And then here to adopt.
Gotcha. All right, do I have a motion to waive introduction of ordinance number M13, 2021?
So moved.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Mancini? Trustee Dearborn? Yes. Trustee Apatoff?
Yes.
Trustee Kripe?
yes,
That motion carries, and now may I have a motion to adopt ordinance number M13, 2021?
So moved.
second,
Second.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff?
Yes.
Trustee Kripe?
yes.
Trustee Mancini? Yes. Trustee Dearborn? Yes.
That motion carries. Thanks again, and good luck with your project. All right, moving on. Item C, ordinance number M14, 2021. This is a transfer of property and dedication of Essex Road as a public right-of-way. A routine title search revealed a discrepancy in the ownership of Essex Road, a presumed public street that is owned by New Trier High School. The school and the village have negotiated an agreement for transferring the property to the village. Brian Norkus is back again to give us some background and some next steps.
I'm having the same difficulty with the reading glasses and mask combo, so.
You windshield wiper.
Essex Road is, as shown in the image on your screen there, between Winnetka Avenue and Sunset Road, has long served, obviously, as a part of the village's street system, or the neighborhood's street system, and the village, as well as New Trier, have always understood that this was a village street right-of-way, the 760-foot length that's highlighted there. During the routine title search that New Trier had conducted, the shaded area, that's the 760-foot portion adjacent to and bisecting New Trier's campus, that title search revealed a document that would appear to suggest that it is in fact owned by New Trier High School. New Trier is not interested in owning what is and has been treated as part of the village's street system. The village, for its part, is very interested in acquiring it now. It is, in addition to being the part of the village's circulation system in the neighborhood there, it also is improved with water and sewer utilities. New Trier High School has prepared a plat of dedication, which, if the council approves the resolution in your packet, would be recorded and transfer the property into a publicly dedicated right-of-way. There's also the transaction would include but not be limited to preparation of a quitclaim deed, which would be recorded along with the plat of dedication to put the street right-of-way into village ownership. Happy to answer any questions that you might have associated with that.
All right, I'm sure if Penny was here, she'd have a bunch of questions, mainly on the historic aspects of how this happened, but any other questions?
Peter, is this just a routine cleanup? Yeah, I mean, we went back and looked at all the property records. At some point, I think it was 1820, something in there. We actually went to the county, took them a month to dig up those old deeds, and they did not deed it to the village for whatever reason, and then there's a gap. And it looked like maybe they intended to at some point and never did. So, given that we've been maintaining it for the last 100 years.
Do they owe us any money for that?
That's amazing,
Yeah,
really.
and with all the utilities that are there.
Right.
So.
Okay, good. But it's, the reason, it came up because they're redoing the gym. That's when they had a title search, and that's why it came up.
So I'll say that this is the second such time this has come up since I've been here, because the village always assumed it owned the Cherry Street extension out at Duke Childs Field, and it turns out that we didn't own that either. I'm thinking maybe before we do any more streetscape projects, we should do some thorough title searches to make sure that we're not improving somebody else's property the next time around. All right, is there any public comment on this item? Okay, so seeing none, I'll bring it back up, and this is another issue where we can waive introduction and get it off our plate. Good. So, we okay with it? Yeah. Great. All right, do I have a motion to waive introduction of ordinance number M14, 2021?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote?
Trustee Kripe?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow? Yes. Trustee Mancini?
That motion carries, thank you. And thanks, Brian. Okay, item D,
We need a motion to adopt.
oh. Okay. May I have, I'm sorry, this is just hard to follow sometimes. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance number M14, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Apatow?
Yes.
Trustee Kripe?
Yes.
Trustee Mancini? Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
That motion carries. See, in my mind's eye, I had already seen the motion carrying, so I was on to the next one.
Done that.
We
It
wouldn't
still
have
wouldn't have transferred.
And then another 100 years, somebody else could clean it up. Oh, brother. Okay. Item number D, resolution number R68, 2021, easement amendment for Thorn Tree subdivision, and this is for adoption, so I'm not going to be confused on this one. This request is to amend an easement agreement for the Thorn Tree subdivision, falls under the council's purview. Brian has got a busy night on his hands, and he's back to give us yet another report.
Cleanup hitter.
Yeah, really.
This has been a really interesting mix of project types
For
tonight.
sure.
You don't usually get this much variety.
Day.
This request, as the village president mentioned, is to modify particular elements of the Thorn Tree subdivision. Highlighted in the image on your screen there in red outline is the outline of the 1992 Thorn Tree Lane subdivision, platted 10 lots along with platting a new dedicated village street right-of-way. As part of the approval of that subdivision, the developers of the subdivision were required to design and construct stormwater detention facilities to accommodate the anticipated amount of stormwater runoff that would be generated by the development of this 10-lot subdivision. The subject property that is shown within that red highlighted area, specifically the yellow lot in the image there, is the subject property at 130 Evergreen Lane. To assure the continued function and operation of the stormwater detention facilities that were constructed as part of the approved subdivision, there was a stormwater detention easement that is located, generally speaking, within the area on your screen that's highlighted in blue there, that is the approximate location of the stormwater detention basin. The subject property that's shown in the image on this slide shows the existing improvements on the property, the house and the driveway in the southeasterly corner. If you look at the contour lines in the rear property area at the upper left portion of the lot, those contour lines and the concentration of those lines is depicting what is a rather large open detention basin that has been covered with grass and has other landscaping improvements in it. That basin was constructed on or about the same time as the initial subdivision approval in 1992 and shortly thereafter. It's an open, dry basin, meaning it's dry most of the time, except when there's a larger rainfall event, and then it will take on water and then gradually release it into the nearby storm system in those larger rain events. The image on the screen right now is showing the applicant's proposed pool, which they desire to place at the rear of their home. The location of that pool is in conflict with the location of the stormwater detention basin, as well as the location of the easement itself, which provides for the long-term existence and maintenance of those stormwater facilities. So the applicant has requested adjusting the boundaries of the stormwater easement of the subject property. And to accommodate the proposed pool, they propose to regrade the rear yard and effectively provide additional stormwater volume elsewhere on the property to allow the pool's construction. Plans that have been submitted by the applicant detail how the property will be regraded, specifically how they will propose to maintain existing stormwater volumes. A lot of paperwork in your agenda packet that detail how that system was designed and the volumes determined. Those plans have been designed by the applicant's civil engineer, Daniel Craney and Company. Your agenda packet includes extensive details regarding that design and the stormwater detention basin. Village engineering staff have reviewed the stormwater detention design and have determined that the revised plan will continue to accommodate the required stormwater detention and flood plain compensatory storage requirements. So if approved by the council this evening, a document would be recorded with the county amending Thorntree subdivision. It's contained in your agenda packet from pages 135 through 163. On the screen, an excerpt of that document shows but one detail. It's probably the most important detail in that it depicts the relocation of the stormwater detention easement. This is also included in page 153 of your packet if you're looking for the paper copy of that. Resolution R68, which is starting on page 131 of your packet, if adopted, would grant council approval of the applicant's request and authorize recordation of the amendment document with the county. I know the applicant's here. They can answer your questions that you might have for them, and I would be happy to as well.
Sure. All right, questions for staff, which would include Brian. Jim, I assume you're here to respond to any technical questions?
Jim and Emily are both.
I'll maybe
Go ahead,
ask
John.
Jim or Brian a question. I know I've had experience on other detention areas when you touch them. Is it still required, is this still reviewed by MWRD? Or is this totally village, that detention area?
I'm going to let an engineer answer that.
Okay.
This is Village.
All right, because I know I've done other ones where you start messing with the pond, now you got to do flow and rate control, and
Right.
it really messes things up. And then the new pool area and stuff, all that new impervious, is that kind of calculated in?
That's all part of the calculations, and,
Okay.
and staff went so far as to require the applicant to make contact with all of their neighbors to inform them, because they're all dependent on that. And we did get a letter notifying them that they were all okay with the change they were making.
Great, thank you. That's good.
And, Peter, I assume that if by chance this doesn't work as expected, our provision 5, the indemnification clause, indemnifies the village and for anything that might go wrong with this change.
Correct.
Okay.
Going along with that, is there going to be checks and balances during construction that will ensure that this is being done correctly?
Yes, as part of the requirements, once the work is completed, they would have to submit an as-built drawing, which would certify the limits of the detention area along with the calculations, so that staff could review it and make sure it was in compliance.
Great, thanks.
You guys down there got anything?
The only question I had is, what's the happy place thing about, but,
Love that.
I want to be there.
So I'm David Nelson. I'm the actual husband of the owner. So it's my wife's property, and for whatever reason, she right before COVID decided she had to have a pool, and I wish we had it during COVID, as we all probably wish. But my wife this is her happy place, so we call it CCN Happy Place. But yeah, this is definitely a labor of love for my wife. So yes.
Awesome.
I do want to add thank you very much, though, to the village staff. I know people sometimes around the neighborhood complain about how long it takes for permits. This had to have been one of the most excruciating processes for me, but I can't imagine for staff, because everyone's like, we can't help you unless you move this line, and it's a vestige of time, and everyone was supportive, and it was a great help from the village and all staff, and everyone came out to my house. So I really do appreciate your guys' time. It took a couple of months, and Scott Byron's the landscape architect and has been doing this years, and said this has been quite an interesting one. So I learned a lot. So it's been interesting.
Well, anytime a resident can go to, 9 other neighbors?
Yeah.
And get them to sign a document
Amazing.
giving something up. I mean, I've only seen that once before when we did Trap Lane. It's an amazing feat. You're to be commended, and we won't lose your phone number, because if we need that kind of battle in the future, we'll give you a call and see if you can go to work for us again.
Well, I joke, I did a project in the city, which is now RH Gallery, and that was in the old, Gold Coast, so some of the most particular neighbors, and I think this was harder to explain than that one. But yeah, thank you.
As it should be.
Yes, well worth the effort, so.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, we'll see if we can move this along for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, I'll move forward and ask for a motion to adopt resolution number R68, 2021.
so moved.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Kripe?
Yes.
Trustee Mancini? Trustee Dearborn?
Yes?
Trustee Swerk?
Yes.
Trustee Apatow?
motion
Happy
carries.
place, yes.
That motion carries. Thank you very much, and good luck. We'll look for an invitation to the first pool party, okay? All right, item number 9, old business, we have none. Item number 10, new business, we have none. 11, appointments, there are none. 12, closed session, thank goodness there is none. And item 13, adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned, thank you.